Much of God's creation was affected by the fall. And we got our new memory verse this week. They were nice to us this time. They gave us a short, simple one. You need a paper? It's okay. Better late than not here. You do have a book, right, Alice? Yeah, I do. Okay. So does anybody know the new memory verse? It is, you just can't see it. Go ahead, Mom.
The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Genesis 6:5.
Which goes well with our lesson, the effects of the fall. So our last lesson, not last week, 2 weeks ago, last week was just a review. We started talking about corruption, moving into the second C. We saw how Adam, when he rebelled against God's command and ate the fruit that Eve gave him, that Satan deceived her with, that it affected not only them, but everything around them. And we saw that they tried to cover their own sins by making fig leaves for themselves. And God had to do what to cover their sin? He had to kill an animal to make clothes for him. The first blood offering to cover sin was done in the garden by God himself. And that was all to point forward to the sacrificial system he would give the Jewish nation, that without the shedding of blood there is no forgiveness of sin. And it would point all the way to Jesus on the cross, who would ultimately shed his blood for the sins of the world. Today we're going to look at the effects of Adam's fall and the curse which God pronounced to his creation as a result of sin, as well as our future hope of these effects being reversed. But we'll start today with a handout, our activity. Pull mine up here so I know what we're doing. We learned a lot about how to look at the biblical text in order to understand what the text is trying to teach us. We did observe, interpret, and apply. We're going to use them to look at the curse that God pronounced in Genesis chapter 3. So, who wants to read Genesis? Well, we don't have, yeah. Somebody want to read Genesis 3, 8 through 19? It's a long one.
Then man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked. So I hid." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" The man said, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is it? What is this you have done?" And the woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all the livestock and all the wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." To the woman he said, "I will greatly increase your pains in childbearing. With pain you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." To Adam he said, "Because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree about which I have commanded you, you must not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you.
19. In the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, from dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. Go ahead, Rich.
I got a question regarding, obviously God is on the track, on the Christian, always, right? So he already knows the end of the situation. So if he knew the end at the beginning, why did there have to be the fall? He could have created what he wanted and it would have just been what he wanted.
Yeah. So why did God create Adam and Eve with the ability to sin? Because otherwise he would have just created robots. Yeah, he gave free will. What would be the sense? See, God needed nothing, but if God was going to create a species to live with him, to worship him, to spend eternity with him, what would be the sense of making a robot that had no choice in the matter? You know, we can create robots that'll do everything we say, but you'll never get love, care, affection, kindness, or anything out of it because it doesn't have a choice in it. So giving them the ability to sin means the ones that will follow God will worship him for who he is, not because he's forced them to. Good question, though. All right, so let's look at the curses. I added lines and numbers to make it easier because I hate trying to rate when there's no lines. What was the first curse upon the serpent? Yep, he shall crawl on his belly. Second one, and eat dust. Eat dust all of its days of its life. Crawl on its belly, which tends to make you think when snakes were first designed, they didn't slither on the ground. They must have legs like lizards or something. Something was different because now the curse is that they are stuck on their bellies on the ground.
For Satan, why did he put Satan in a snake? Why did he make Satan a snake?
Satan possessed the snake.
Oh,
The other oddball question I'll throw out, and we'll move right past like I didn't even say it. None of them were curious that the snake was speaking. It didn't strike either one of them as odd. I find that interesting, but I don't have a good answer for you. But we know Balaam's donkey later speaks. So apparently there's that provision where they can. They just don't. But why a snake? Why did Satan possess a snake to deceive Adam and Eve? There was nobody else around. There wasn't another human like he does now. There was just Adam and Eve at that point. So it had to be an animal. Why he chose a snake, I don't know. So what was the curse on the serpent pointing to Satan? There's two more curses for the serpent that directed towards Satan instead of the snake.
her offspring was going to trample on his head.
His head will be crushed by Jesus. Yeah, a specific offspring, and there's one more in there.
Now, is that the first one, or is that the second?
That'd be the second one.
First one?
We-
Yes.
For which serpent are you on? Serpent or serpent Satan?
Serpent.
Serpent, the first one was crawl on its belly. Second one was eat dust. Serpent Satan, the second one is Jesus will crush his head. You don't have to put them in order, but there's one that comes before that curse. Enmity. There'll be enmity between her offspring and your offspring. That's more general. That's why most people don't like snakes. That enmity is there. I like snakes, but I'm odd. So what was the curse on Eve?
Pain in childbirth.
Pain in childbirth. What other curse? That's the pain in childbirth. The desire to rule over the husband, and he will rule over you. That is part of the curse. Before the sin, Adam and Eve functioned like they were designed. Adam was designed to be the head of the household. Eve was designed to be his helper. No role was less important or less desirable. I mean, the Holy Spirit is a helper. God himself is a helper. So that roles weren't less, they were just different. But they worked complete harmony at the beginning. There was no struggle over who was going to do what or argument over who was going to do what. It was in perfect harmony. That split, now there's going to be, you'll want to roll over your husband and he'll roll over you. There'll always be that tension. So with that comes number 3. The husband-wife relationship is forever changed and not for the better. There's always going to be that tension even in your relationships. Even for us saved, there's still that tension. What about Adam? What's the first curse for Adam? He curses the ground, which means Adam will now have hard labor to produce food. In the Garden of Eden, there was work involved, but it wasn't hard. There wasn't thorns, there wasn't thistles, there wasn't all this stuff choking out vegetation. It was just you went and picked it, cleaned it, trimmed the tree, whatever it takes to make food grow. But now it would become very difficult. What's the second one put on Adam? Nope. Death. 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 Yeah, from dust you were made, till dust you shall return. Other curses. Sue just said one. The ground will now produce thorns and thistles. I know it's up on the board, but think to the serpent. What did he say to the serpent? You above all other animals will be cursed. So that insinuates that every other animal is cursed in some manner, but the serpent is cursed more. So not only is vegetation under the curse, so is all of animal life and all of human life. There's our point for today. Everything in creation fell under the curse because of Adam's sin. In creation, what authority structure did God establish between Adam and Eve? Adam was to be the head of the household, Eve was to be the helper. That's why every time you hear me talk about the fall, I never blame Eve. I always blame Adam. The fall lies in Adam. So let's look at Genesis 1:29 through 31. So another impact to the fall, like we talked about with vegetation, is now their food supply has changed. It is not easy pickings anymore. Now they have to work for their food. And God said, Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, and you shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, it was given every green plant for food, and it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And it was evening, and there was morning the 6th day. So what did God call Adam and Eve to eat after he gave them authority over all of creation, all of created things? What was their diet? Plants. No animals. They were vegetarians.
Yeah, at first. But then after he sinned, didn't they? They still put,
We don't get God's permission to eat animals till after the flood. I believe it happened shortly after sin, probably, but they weren't given permission till after the flood. What did all the animals eat? Plants. Can't imagine that today, a lion going up and eating a fruit tree, but when they were designed, that's what they did. How did God describe the condition of his creation immediately after day 6? Very good. And what does very good mean? Not morally good, functionally. It functioned perfectly as designed. So let's look at Deuteronomy 32:4. The rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are justice. A God of faithfulness and without iniquity, just and upright is he. So what does this verse tell us about God's works? It's perfect. What does works mean in Deuteronomy? What's Moses writing about? His creation. It was very good. So everything that had the breath and life of it, how would you describe its diet? They're all vegetarians. So why does that cause a problem with evolution? If you took an evolutionary view, the fossil record clearly indicates animals were eating animals. They got teeth marks in the bones. We have fossils with animals in their stomach. And evolution tells us that mankind didn't come till well after the dinosaurs, but we got dinosaur fossils with other animals in their stomach. Huh? Why is that? Because they didn't get fossilized till the flood. The flood is what created all the fossils we have on Earth. Till after the flood. No, I didn't say not anybody. We didn't get permission till after. Well, yes. Yes.
but there was sin, so.
Sin had already entered, so creation was already cursed. So at that point, mankind was probably already eating animals too, and animals were. No. Noah was right, justice, and upright amongst his generation. So I'm guessing he still followed the command of God to eat vegetation. So, but after the flood, he gives them permission to start eating animals.
Well, the animals that eat, they eat fruit too.
Yeah.
They live in trees and all that. What about the fish? Big fish and smaller fish, would they have just eaten like plankton or whatever that stuff is?
They must have eaten seaweed and other vegetation. Yep. And when did they get fossilized? The flood. We don't have fossils from the Garden of Eden. At least. Yep. Yep. After sin, it all changed. But if you take that aspect, does verse 31 make sense? Would God say it's very good if fish are eating fish and dinosaur eating dinosaurs. No, it's not how he designed it. So before sin, all these rules had to have been followed.
Another point on Deuteronomy 32:4, about God's justice, also being perfect.
Yeah.
But the fact that Adam and Eve were then cursed, we can look at that as a just thing to do.
Just punishment for the sin. And if we look at it honestly, it's a very merciful judgment because the sentence was death. At that point, they could have taken a bite and both fell over. Creation would have ended as quickly as it started.
That's like in flood, but they would not take it. They did everything after sin, after Adam and Eve sinned.
Yeah,
Then
our memory verse.
everybody started to do what they wanted, and they started eating probably animals and doing things that the Lord didn't want them, so he couldn't look at them because he was perfect. And so he just got rid of them.
Genesis 6:5, the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of their thought of his heart was evil continuously. Look around. We haven't changed.
No, it'd be so perfect, and then it's so bad.
It happens fast. It happened as soon as they ate the fruit. What's Adam do? I'm not to blame. God, you're to blame. You gave me that woman. And she made me eat, so you two, you settle this. I'm good. And then Eve, same thing. Well, it's not me. It's a snake you made.
Salty about the fact that Eve got 3 curses, Adam got 2. Just
But that last curse goes both ways. It's Adam's too. The enmity, the friction between husband and wife. That's both of us suffer that one. And I'll argue that's why most men don't want to lead their home anymore, is because of that curse. They just rather hand it off. Lead. Another important passage that confirms this idea is found when God addressed Noah after the flood. So turn to chapter 9. I'll read verses 1 through 3. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth and upon every bird of the heavens, upon everything that creeps on the ground and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I have given you the green plants, I give you everything." So here's where God gives permission to eat living creatures. So it wouldn't make sense if they weren't vegetarians to start, that now that they're allowed to eat animals. So it confirms that in the beginning they weren't, because it wasn't until he gave Noah the permission was animals for food allowed to happen. Huh? Yeah, animals for food. Yeah. Well, and for other animals, but I'm sure man was too before Noah. It's just another sin. It's just another where mankind disobeyed. Yeah. Well, it depends how you look at the line that's divided in Genesis. You have the righteous line of Seth, and you have the unrighteous line of Cain. So maybe Seth's line followed the dietary restrictions for humanity. We don't know. It doesn't lay it out that clear. But it does divide them two lines. One is righteous and one is unrighteous. So if Seth's line's righteous, you have to think to the best of their ability they're obeying laws, the laws of God. And to the best of their ability, a dietary law would be an easier one to follow. You just don't kill an animal and eat it. So this raises some interesting questions from evolutionists that we have to be able to answer. If everything that was created was supposed to eat plants, why does T-Rex have giant teeth? Why does an armadillo have scales on its back to prevent it from being attacked? Why do snakes have venom if they're not attacking mice to kill them and eat them? Creationists have, I think it's 4 or 5 different ways they try to explain it, because we have to give an answer. It's an honest question. First one, they say originally these features had a good purpose, but the environment changed and the purpose of those features changed. Second way they try to explain it is God added new features to the creatures after the curse, so that they would be able to withstand the onslaught of violence provoked by sin. Third way, although unnecessary in a perfect world, God designed the original creatures with these features that they would need to live in a fallen world, since God knew it was coming. Fourth, God placed designs for these features in the genes of the original creatures, but didn't become active till after the curse.
I've heard a man, a minister talk about the ark and that, and how God, they said, how could God put all these different animals in, and like ducks, and there's so many different kinds of ducks, and a dog, and all these dogs, or sheep, and all these different kinds of sheep. That's what they were talking about, different genes, as when he would put like one kind of sheep in there with male and female, and then after the flood, that those genes would come out down in, generations, different kinds of sheep.
Yeah. You keep using the key word as you're speaking. He only put one kind of sheep.
Yeah.
Every sheep we see that's different is now descendants from that same kind. One kind of canine, one kind of feline. There was only one. So there wasn't a tiger and a lion on there. There was one cat, male and female. And it's just like humanity. We can breed all different types of genes because we have most of them dormant. There's an astronomical chance that 2 white people can have a black child, or 2 black people can have a white child, because those genes are present. It's very rare, but it can happen. 2 brown-eyed people can have a blue-eyed baby. It's very rare. But it can happen because those genes are present. If you ask me, all of these things were already, T-Rex already had teeth when he was created. Yeah. I was going to say, monkeys are a perfect example. If you look at monkeys, they got giant fangs. They're vegetarians. They don't use them to kill other animals. They use them to break branches off and leaves off and fruit. You ever try to open a coconut? You need something pretty strong to open a coconut. So all these features had other uses before they flipped. So let's look at Isaiah. I'll try to speed up. 11:6 through 7. The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the lion and the fattened calf together, and the little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lay down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. Here Isaiah is talking about the future, the 7th sea, consummation. The way it was designed originally is the way it will go back to. The lion will, I think it's wolf. The wolf will lay down with the lamb, the calf and the lion, and they all can be led by a little child. The lion's not going to attack the child. Creation, in the consummation, the new heavens and new earth will return. We see it again in Revelation. Well, let's go to Romans first. It's next. Romans 8:19 through 22. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revelation of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope. that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. Again, what does creation refer to? Dottie? What's create? Everything. Everything's groaning. What is creation waiting for? The revealing of the sons of God. Why are they waiting for this event? Because they were unwillingly subjected to futility. Creation didn't have a choice in Adam and Eve sinning. They just suffered the consequences of it. How did creation come to be futile? God subjected it to the curse, both plants and animals, thorns and thistles. In light of this passage, how much creation is suffering? All of it. If the whole creation has been impacted by the curse, how much of creation needs to be redeemed? All of it. And it will be. Revelation 21, 1 through 5. Then I saw the new heaven and the new earth, for the first heaven and first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither there shall be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away. And he who is seated on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new. Also, he said, Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. So what does this passage tell us about the extent of the reversal of the curse? All of it. Yeah. The whole curse will be reversed. What parts of the curse are specifically mentioned in this passage? In verse 4. Yep, no pain, no crying, no mourning, no death. If death, disease, and suffering have always been part of God's creation, which is the evolutionary view, because you can see deformities in fossils, you can see, like I said, teeth marks in fossils. In order for something to be fossilized, it has to die. So if that was always part of God's creation, why take it away at the end? Because nothing was made to die, and it's all part of the curse. We're not going to have time for the application. So we have a few minutes. Let's do questions. No questions? So when Adam and Eve sinned, they affected everything. Earth, the solar system, the planets, the sun, all of God's creation fell under the curse. Before Adam and Eve sinned, there was never a tornado. There was never a tsunami. There was never an earthquake. There was never a hurricane. All those are effects of the fall.
I'm wondering about the word consummation. It's kind of new to me.
That's
When I hear consummation, I'm thinking nice little steak, baked potato, broccoli, cheese.
consummation's like a wedding. Husband and wife are consummate, joined together. That's when we're joined together with Christ in heaven, our new bodies, the new heaven, new earth. God dwells with us again like the Garden of Eden. That's the...
Eating.
That's the great consummation.
Consume. I was thinking that was the root, but no, it's okay, something different.
Yep. Any others? All right, we'll close in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your mercy that even in the sin of Adam and Eve, when the wages of sin is death, you didn't end it right there. You allowed redemption. You slayed an animal so that the shedding of blood to cover their sins, knowing that you had planned your Son to come and take away the sins of the world. We praise you for the patience, for